2025, 2 p.m. Commissioners' Consent Agenda meeting. We have 3 commissioners are with us. Commissioner Jordan will be joining us by Zoom, and I know Commissioner French will also be joining us here soon. But it is after 2 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So just for the record, there was no written testimony, and we'll go ahead and stand for the pledge. So we will start with open public forum, and I do have one person signed up for open public forums, so we will start with Becky Dickerhoff. You're the only one today. Oh, is it not? Okay, here, I'll get it closer. Thank you.
On December 20th, 2024, KXLY News reporter Alexandra Coertz, Spokane County channel, reported on the dire situation concerning housing evictions in Spokane, noting it would likely set a record. The experts even predict it will be among the hardest hit communities in Washington. The National Low-Income Housing Coalition released their most recent data in 2 reports, The Gap and Out of Reach, on January 17, 2025 for the year 2024. The Out of Reach report shows the desperate situation in Washington, and particularly Spokane, as I've highlighted in the copies I included in my testimony. The Gap notes there are 28 rental units available per 100 renters in the state. The most alarming statistic is that 75% of the low-income renters are at a severe cost burden. Out of Reach shows Washington has the 5th highest housing wage, $40.32, the minimum wage necessary to afford a 2-bedroom rental in the nation. As of 2024, if you earn a minimum wage in Washington, you must work 99 hours per week to afford a 2-bedroom rental unit. As reported by KXLY, these costs are going to result in a record number of evictions for Spokane. Without assistance, the number of homeless people on the street will rise. The number of homeless people on the street who interact with law enforcement will increase. The number of homeless people with criminal offenses will increase. The number of homeless people who cannot find housing will increase. It should also be noted that the more time law enforcement spends interacting with the homeless, the less time law enforcement will spend solving crimes. I have testified for weeks and months, hoping the county commissioners would reconsider their decision not to enact 1590 in Spokane County. Sadly, my testimony has not had the effect for which I was hoping. So, what are the county commissioners going to do to prevent Spokane from becoming a record-setting statistic in the 2025 housing reports? Thank you.
Thank you. So this is open public forum testimony time. Is there anyone else that would like to testify before the Board of County Commissioners? Can you hear this better? Okay. Not much? Okay, we'll try. Okay. So second call for anyone wishing to testify. Seeing no one in the audience and no one online. Oh, there is one online. Okay. We are trying to get them up. Yes, so I just got to be really close. Okay. That's okay. We are working to get the person who is online up to testify. Okay, so Lunell Hout.
Hi, it's Lunell Hott.
Hott.
And I wanted to talk about the open public testimony that you have, and I don't know if you want it when it comes
Yes.
up on the agenda or here.
Yes, so that you'll be able to testify when that comes up on the agenda, which will be item
you.
7 or 6A, I believe. So yes, so I will open it for public testimony at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this will be the third and final call for anyone wishing to testify at the open public forum. Seeing no one in the audience and no one online, I will close the open public testimony and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve items 3, 4, and 5, including all sub-items on today's agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. And I just want to make sure Commissioner Jordan was up. Okay. So Commissioner Jordan, we have you with us now. So we have a motion and a second for items 3, 4, and 5, and all sub-items as presented on today's agenda. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I think we got some feedback, so very good. Motion passes unanimously. That will then take us to item number 7A, which is a public hearing in the matter of modifying certain provisions of Spokane County's open public forum policy as set forth in Spokane County Code Section 1.01.030, as well as Spokane County's Open Public Meetings Act Rules of Conduct. Mr. Amacio, you're going to do a quick presentation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the date which the Board of County Commissioners has set to consider amending your open public forum policy as well as your rules of conduct which work along with those. The notice that the board I prepared and advertised is a result of at least 3 workshops that the Board of County Commissioners had to address this issue. In each of those workshops, the Board of County Commissioners requested that I review the open public forum policies of other cities and towns in Spokane County, as well as their rules of decorum. As a result of that, the Board of County Commissioners directed that I advertise certain changes to your open public forum policy, as well as your rules of decorum. I've tried to outline those very simply for you and for members of the public as we move through them, because it is sometimes difficult to read the newspaper with the changes lined out and underlined respectively. So first, if I could direct the board's attention to the modifications of your open public forum. I'd like to start out by reminding the board that code counties in the state of Washington are legally not required to hold open public forums. But this Board of County Commissioners has determined to hold an open public forum at the beginning of each 2 o'clock legislative session held every week. The 3 changes which we have made to your present open public forum policy are as follows. Number 1, to make it optional for an individual testifying orally or in person at your open public forum to provide their address. Case law suggested that that's something that we should not require individuals to have to give us. They can volunteer if they're not required to. The second change which we've made, board members, to your open public forum policy is to make it clear that during your open public forum, each member speaking has only 3 minutes unless the chair of the Board of County Commissioners should determine that additional time is necessary. We had quite a bit of discussion about this particular item, board members. The issue was, should it be a vote of the board or the chair? And the board unanimously said, Mr. Maceo, please advertise that this is up to the chair of the Board of County Commissioners. The third change is one which is consistent with every open public forum that I reviewed, and that is to say, they all provide that any person speaking at the open public forum cannot allocate their 3 minutes to another speaker. And I was somewhat surprised when all the other open public forums that I reviewed and I shared with the board had the same limitation. So those are the three changes to the open public forum ordinance that we presently have that you'll be taking testimony on today. In addition to that, the Board of County Commissioners has rules of conduct which are over here and posted. And those rules of conduct are applicable to anyone presenting testimony at the open public forum or during another item which is on your agenda. We've done four things with regard to the modification of the rules of conduct. Firstly, we renamed them rules of decorum. And if you look at most public entities, they call them rules of decorum in lieu of rules of conduct. And so the board directed that I make that change. Number two, our present rules of conduct afford members of the public, the second change basically says members of the public can file complaints or charges against county employees. And unfortunately, we didn't define the word county employees. And as we all know, elected officials, of course, are not county employees. So we amended the rules of decorum to eliminate charges or complaints brought against elected officials in Spokane County during a public forum or any presentation. And as we all know, members of the Board of County Commissioners and other elected officials are subject to recall. And that's the process which the state of Washington has set forth if you're unhappy with what a particular elected official may be doing. The third change which we made to the rules of decorum is the same one which we made to the Open Public Meetings Act. That is to say, you're limited to 3 minutes unless the chair of the board decides to provide you additional time. The final change which we made to the rules of decorum to make them consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act is to provide that individuals cannot allocate their 3-minute time to another speaker. So summarily speaking, board members, those are the respective changes to the Open Public Meeting Forum ordinance that we have, as well as the rules of conduct. Does the board have any question with regard to those particular items?
So clarification for me, just I think for the public too, that when we say that the speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes, it also can be less than 3 minutes.
Madam Chair, that is a correct statement. That is correct. That's a correct statement.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
I just want to make sure that the public is aware that it's limited to that.
That is correct.
Based on how many people sign up, it may be less than that.
And that's why the Board of County Commissioners gave to the chair of the board the discretion in certain instances to address that issue.
Thank you. Any other items? Mr. Waldo?
So to that same point, should we make sure that both of these modifications are consistent then? Because in the first modification, you know, let's see here, shall be limited to 3 minutes or less. And then at the bottom though, in the rules of decorum, it just says shall be limited to 3 minutes unless the chair wants to give more time. So I think our previous language, just for background, was may. It may be limited to 3 minutes, which is very not clear, I think, to the public. So I think we were aiming for 3, or if there's a large crowd, that may 3 minutes or less to be able to accommodate everyone who came to be able to provide feedback to the board.
Commissioner, your point is well raised. In the amendments to the Open Public Forum, it does provide for 3 minutes or less, as the chair pointed out. In the rules of decorum, it just says 3 minutes. Certainly, I can add or less, and that would be something you'd have to make a motion on as we move forward, board members, and then we'd make that motion and then vote on the entire document. thank you, Commissioner Walder, for mentioning that point. So you would probably go to the rules of conduct, and I will give you, and it would be under subparagraph B, speaking time limits. Does that assist you, Commissioner? Thank you very much for your inquiry. Any other questions, Madam Chair? Thank you. This is an open public meeting.
Thank you. So this is an open public forum item. So if anyone would like to testify at the open public forum, you are welcome to do so. And I do know we did have someone online. So Linnell Hott, if you would like to go ahead, you will have your 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure that you know that I am not disagreeing with Jimmy Maceo at all. I'm just suggesting that something different might be done with his research. And the concern that I have is the tightening of rules of engagement with our elected officials and kind of a distancing with the electeds. So the two areas that I'd like to draw your attention to is the allocation of time, which I totally agree the chair should be deciding. My concern is creating a pressure cooker atmosphere where I know that sometimes in public hearings people only have 30 seconds and they would like to give their time to someone else. And by codifying that they cannot, I think it gives the chair less options for sort of a pressure relief valve when people are really animated and really feel like they want to speak to their elected officials. The other suggestion I would make is I understand that this is not the place to file a complaint about an elected official, but I think it would be helpful for the public to know that there's something besides the nuclear option, which is, well, you can always recall someone. So if there was even just a statement that says that if you have a complaint about an elected official, please, fill out this form or here's the process. I think that would be helpful in terms of maintaining the trust that you have with your constituents. Thank you for your work.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on item number 7A? See no one else online, no one else in the audience. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 7A. I will close the public testimony, and I will state that, it does allow you as, I'll let Commissioner Kearns.
Mr. Amacio, please correct me if I am in error on this, but to the point about regarding the county employees and lodging complaint, and we're not saying that somebody cannot come here and criticize the work of any board member, correct?
You're asking a good question, Commissioner Kearns. The present language said that complaints or charges cannot be brought against any elected official in Spokane County. So the buzzwords are complaints or charges. I think if someone maybe disagreed with any board member in some sort of decision, my interpretation would be that's not a complaint or charge. And I think that is something certainly could be brought to the board's attention during the open public forum or an other item which is up for a public discussion.
And Commissioner French. I was going to say, and just as we've seen in other boards and commissions that I'm on, with a limit of 3 minutes, it just means, and not being able to allocate your time to somebody else, there are definitely ways around that by people having written statements that they read, that one person reads for 3 minutes, the next person reads for another 3 minutes. That we won't be able to stop. But it's really trying to give the opportunity to the people that are here to speak. So there are always ways around, but that's just the reality.
That is correct, Madam Chair. Does the board have any other questions of legal counsel before you make any sorts of motions?
Commissioner French, do you have another comment for Mr. Amicio, or just a comment?
No, you just said exactly what I was gonna say. You can always provide written testimony, and I know that we've got folks in the audience that are very good at that, providing written testimony in addition to the oral testimony. That option is always available, even if you think your time limit is going to be exceeded. There's nothing that says you've got to limit the number of pages you provide testimony on.
And beyond the open public forum, I know all of us commissioners that are here and Commissioner Jordan on Zoom are always available to speak to any citizen in Spokane County, and we do on a regular basis. So I feel like we're actually very good at being a good stewards to listen to the citizens and listen to the ideas and complaints and opportunities that citizens have and want to bring forward to us. That it doesn't just have to be at the open public forum.
The other reason why most boards that I sit on limit public testimony to 3 minutes or less is not because we don't want to hear from you. It's because we want to make sure that there's enough time for everybody that wants to provide testimony to have the ability to come and be able to do that. Now, for the Board of County Commissioners, we've not had those kind of instances on a regular basis, but we have had situations where we've had this entire chamber filled with folks that all wanted to provide testimony to the board, and it would take well into the evening to be able to accomplish that. So the 3 minutes is to make sure that everybody has opportunity to share your opinion with the board. Thank you.
Commissioner Jordan?
Just wanted to clarify, and perhaps this is a question for Mr. Maceo, the language about charges and complaints. The way I read it, it's actually a loosening of the restrictions of our rules, not a tightening, because the rules had already said that there's no initiating charges or complaints against specific county employees. We are simply making clear that you can come to this meeting and complain about an elected official. So it is actually making the rules less restrictive about what people can say in that regard. Is that fair?
Commissioner Jordan, I'm not sure, as I listened to you express that question, whether that was the intent of the Board of County Commissioners. I think this language was originally added some time ago when we had members of the public that were concerned about some of the actions in one of your departments that you have, and during the open public forum, they raised concerns. As a result of those concerns, this language was added, which basically said, if you will, under number 6, thank you very much, we added that language, if you will, to number 6. The underlined language is the new language we added. So if technically speaking, we look at this, I think Commissioner Jordan is correct in how he's interpreting it. So it's just the opposite of what we said. So we can't criticize, if you will, county employees, criticize being neutral, but you could bring concerns and complaints against electeds. And my recollection, board members, is I don't recall that during the course of our dialogue, and I certainly can be corrected in that. And if that's the case, then this particular, the way this is written, just reverses what I said. So you could bring complaints against electeds, but not against county employees. So I apologize if I confused the board on this topic.
Commissioner Waldron?
Well, no, I was going to bring up the same. I had this similar understanding as Commissioner Jordan, because I think we were discussing all of the rules and whether or not we needed to do updates.
Yes.
And when we looked at this one, we still wanted to make sure that individual county employees were not criticized individually, right? I mean, you could say I'm not happy with the way my streets are being plowed or what have you, but not, we had a whole conversation about not targeting specific employees, but then we said, but we're not employees. If people have concerns or complaints about county commissioners, we're elected officials, they, you know, they can come and I think we've had people come and had differences of opinion and criticisms, and that's part of the job. So I thought that was the conversation we had. So I agree. Maybe it was kind of before you took the ball and started running with it, Mr. Maceo.
Well, Commissioner Waldorf, we had so many workshops on this, and I remember I kind of kept copious notes, and after every workshop, I'd go back and put the language in there. I know the language I have is the correct language, but maybe I misunderstood what the board said. We've advertised this language. Certainly, the board, if you don't want to leave it in there, you can make a motion to eliminate it, similar to Commissioner Waldorf suggesting we may want to modify another section and make it consistent with the OPMA's language.
Commissioner Jordan, I saw you had your hand raised.
No, yes, and just wanted to say I agreed with Commissioner Waldorf's recollection, and that was my recollection of the discussion. And because it's a loosening, and because it makes it clear that anyone can come and say, you know, Chris Jordan, you're not doing a good job, I'm good with it as is. I don't feel that any modifications needed. I just felt it was important to clarify what my understanding of the intent is. Although I don't know why anyone would come and say that about me, but they certainly could.
That's right. Commissioner French.
Are you looking for suggestions? No. No, you know, and I just, for clarity purposes, you know, what we try and do as a legislative body is follow Robert's Rules of Order. And Robert's Rules of Order say that you cannot engage in any kind of personal attack against anybody. You can only raise comments about an issue, not an individual. And the difference for us is that in a political environment, you do have to provide some additional leeway for, as Commissioner Jordan and Waldorf have indicated, for criticizing elected officials if you don't think that they're doing the job that you want them to do, or if you have a difference of opinion. So that's the difference between this and Robert's Rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments before we ask for the vote? We've already closed our public testimony, so okay. Then I will look to my fellow. Commissioner Jordan.
Are we in discussion? I just have more to add briefly before we vote, but I could do that after the motions are made if that's better.
I believe Commissioner Kearns has an amendment to make. So do we want to take that amendment first and then we can do further discussion?
If I could ask Rebecca, could you put the document? Sorry about that. No, we'll do an amendment, and if the amendment is adopted, we will adopt the final document as amended. My amendment is to alter the language in subsection B under speaking time limits to clarify and bring in line the rules of conduct with the language as reflected in the open public forum language, denoting that the time limit is up to, or I'm sorry, 3 minutes or less. That way those two documents coincide with each other. So, yep. So that it will read, just to be sure, each person addressing the board shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes or less, speaking unless the chair determines to provide additional time.
That's okay. You're so quick and I was still trying to make sure. Okay, so I have a motion and a second for the language, the amendment as just discussed. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously for the amendment. So then that takes us to, I guess we can do a motion and then we can do any other comments.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve public hearing item number 6A as amended and presented by staff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, for item 6A as amended. Any further discussion? Commissioner Jordan?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you, especially to the chair, for being willing in some of our recent open public forums to extend that time frame. I think really a lot of where this discussion originated was circumstances where we've had, more than 5 people come to provide testimony at our open public forum, and so we started talking about that. In some of the workshops, I suggested, well, why don't we just lengthen the time of the open public forum? And I think there wasn't really a broad desire to do that, but as long as our code allows for that discretion of the chair to extend that time when appropriate, then I think the problem essentially solves itself, which is what we've seen in recent situations where we've had a larger number of people. We've been able to accommodate that and just make sure that everybody is heard within reason, and that there's time for everybody. So I support the changes as written, and I will be voting accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Waldrop?
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate that. I also want to say I appreciate that you're always looking at how to accommodate as many people as we can during the meeting and still get our business done. So I think this is a good cleaning up of our 2 sets of rules that we had in 2 different places, so it's very clear, and so folks can come prepared knowing you may have 3 minutes, but sometimes it may be 2 if we have a lot of folks signed up. I just wanted to comment that in the I had someone reach out to me about having to provide their address, and so I am happy that we're not making that mandatory. So if you want to share where you live in the county when you come down and testify, that's great, but it's not mandatory. So I appreciate that change. I'll support the amended both public forum language and rules of conduct.
Yeah, and I guess I would just state that I think there was a lot of very thoughtful discussion amongst the commissioners as we had our workshops on this. So, Mr. Michaud, thank you for taking copious notes and getting it right. Just to try to make sure that we have the ability for everyone to speak who wants to speak and still get our business done. And again, all the commissioners, everyone is more than happy to take any other comments from citizens. We do every day. So this isn't limiting how you can talk to your commissioners. It's just at the open public forums. So I'm happy to be supporting this as well. I will see no other discussion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Jordan, did I hear? There we go. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That will then take us to item number 7B, which is in the matter of an ordinance as authorized by RCW 82.14.350 and approved by the voters of the general election held November 5th, 2024, renewing the imposition of an additional 0.1% sales and use tax throughout Spokane County for a time frame commencing January 1, 2026 and terminating December 31, 2035. The monies to be used solely for the purpose of operating, maintaining, repairing, equipping, re-equipping, financing, and remodeling of juvenile detention facilities and jails. Mr. Michaud.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the date which the Board of County Commissioners has set to honor the voters' determination at the November 5th, 2024 election. As you recall, that is the time where the board placed before the electorate for the 5th time the renewal of the juvenile detention facilities and jail 0.1% sales tax. As the voters have done in 5 previous occasions, they approved your renewal of that tax by a vote of 180,310 for and 95,943 against. So there was a 65% approval by the voters of Spokane County for the Board of County Commissioners to renew this tax once it's up. The renewal time frame in the ballot proposition is for a 10-year time frame. This board always puts a sunset clause in ordinances that you pass imposing any sales tax. In this case, the renewal would start January 1st, 2026 and run for 10 years and terminate December 31st, 2035. So at that point in time, the Board of County Commissioners would have to determine to replace this in front of the electorate again to see if they wanted to renew it. As Commissioner Cooney pointed out, the Board of County Commissioners was very careful when you placed this ballot proposition before the electorate. You did not include within the ballot proposition all the language which you could have included. You eliminated that these taxes could not be used for design, acquisition, or construction of juvenile detention facilities and jails, and that was very deliberately done. As a result of the voters' approval of the renewal of the 0.1% juvenile justice and jail facility, legal counsel has advised the board that you are required to adopt an ordinance to implement the will of the voters. So what you have in front of you today, board members, is an ordinance which does exactly what the voters wanted you to do. That is to say, renew the 0.1% juvenile detention facilities and jails sales tax in the entire Spokane County effective January 1st, 2026 and running until December 31st, 2035. The money only to be spent for those specific purposes that you included in your ballot proposition. Are there any questions from any members of the board with regard to this particular ordinance? And as Chairman Cooney knows, once the board passes this ordinance, the county enters into an agreement with the Department of Revenue, because the Department of Revenue collects the tax, if you will, and then allocates that back to Spokane County after taking out a minimal amount for administration.
Are there any questions? Nope. Thank you very
Madam
much.
Chair. And this is the public hearing, as you are aware.
Thank you. You clearly defined it. Okay, so I will open up for public testimony on item number 7B, or 6B, sorry. I'm not seeing anyone online or anyone in the audience. Second call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 6B. Seeing no one. Third and final call for anyone wishing to testify on item number 6B. Seeing no one in the audience and no one online, I will close the open public testimony and look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, move to approve public hearing item number 6B as presented by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item number 6B. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner French.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to express my deep gratitude to the voters in the county that voted in favor of this measure. As you can tell by the numbers, it passed by a significant margin, and that's significant in a climate where people are financially stressed and having difficult times meeting all of their obligations, and then to self-approve a tax that will allow us to continue to make sure that juveniles can find a path forward to get on the right side of the law. So the fact that the voters passed this and a difficult time is not lost on me, and I will do all I can, much like I know that all my fellow commissioners will and our staff, to make sure that these dollars are spent wisely and spent productively to be able to make our community safer. So thank you.
Okay, seeing no other testimony from the commissioners, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. That is the end of our agenda scheduled items, but I do have a couple of things that I know we need to do. So today is the last day for Randy Bischoff. I see him out there. So Randy, if you want to come up, I just gotta. Oh, and Commissioner Jordan, can we use your signature, your stamp?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So, Randy, I have a few things to say about you, but all good, all good. But you started with Spokane County with the Treasurer's Office as the county manager in 1994. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing that you have, 30 years. You haven't been with the county the entire 30 years, but part of your career, your career starting back then. So you left to go to work for private industry, and then you came back in 2017 to become the chief deputy auditor, as I believe I moved to this position. So I say you replaced me.
Yep.
So, but since you've been the senior director of finance and administration, we truly appreciate then you moving into that role in 2023 and really overseeing our finances and our budgeting. As you know, coming from the accounting side, the auditor's office, to then come into budgeting, it truly helps. And you've got had an understanding that helped all the departments. And one of the accomplishments I have to say was we've been trying for a long time, is to get that transition for the payroll, to get on that retro pay. And so, leg pay. Everyone wants to say it differently. It's like I thought we weren't supposed to say leg pay.
Retro is kind of like
Yeah, that's true. Leg pay, normal
normal
pay. But that was huge, in the new ERP system. And so, I mean, those are some things that I really have to commend you for, standing up and making those things happen, because we know county government is not always fast. It can be very slow. And you were able to get those things across the finish line. So I just want to say thank you very much for all the years of service to Spokane County, because I know it extended before coming back in 2017. And thank you, and we just wish you the best of luck on retiring and enjoying life. But your wife is already retired, so you get to join her. So we just want to say thank you very much. And I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything.
I just want to say thank you, Randy, for everything. I always got so much value out of our monthly meetings that you and Ron and I would have to discuss just budgetary issues that we're facing at the county. Learned a ton. I will miss that. Those are always very enjoyable. And I will miss your sense of humor. Randy is a very funny guy. But I just want to say thank you. You've made my job easier, and I appreciate that.
Commissioner French.
Obviously, during my time here, I've seen many budget directors, and you're one of the best. The reformatting of the budget so that not only the commissioners could understand what was going on, but so the public could understand what was going on, was a big move. And you and your team did a masterful job of making that happen. And good things always come from good leadership. And you're one of the best, my friend. And I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement. And thank you for all that you've done for the county.
been a pleasure. Couldn't have done it without my good crew. I learned all my humor from Jason. No, it's been a lot of
We truly appreciate all your work and good luck. Okay. So now I look to Mr. Simmons and Mr. Folsom because I think we have additional items to take care of today.
We do. Commissioners, we have one executive session item for the review performance of a public employee under RCW 4230 110 1G. That will include the commissioners, Matt Folsom, Ashley Cameron, and myself. 10 minutes and no action.
Okay. 10 minutes and no action. And then do we have a...
And then after that, we'll have a closed session.
Okay.
Nothing additional for me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we will be going into executive session for 10 minutes, as discussed. At the end of that 10 minutes, no action is going to be taken, but we will be going into a closed session, but we don't have to state the timing on the closed session, correct? Okay. So then after that, we'll be going into closed session, and we'll be adjourning for the day after that. So thank you all very much for being here today, and we will see you all back next week.